All right. Welcome, all my dear relatives, to another week here at Good Medicine Way. It happens to be a very special day because it is Memorial Day, a day where we recognize all of our fallen soldiers, our fallen warriors, our fallen servicemen, and all those who have passed on protecting this wonderful land that we live in, our native land. Eh? um, but as a special tribute, we have our uncle, our pastor, our father, here sitting here in his Marine Corps uniform. So it's a very special day for everyone today. So, and for those of you who couldn't make it, at least you get to watch the live stream later on, eh? But we're thinking about all of you and all of our fallen warriors today. So, and we give a special blessing to all those who are currently mourning losses within communities. But yeah, Good Medicine Way comes to you from the land of the Tiwa people, the Pueblo people. It is also home to a few Potawatomis. Eh? It's also home to the Dene, the Apache, Muscalero, Chiricahua, Jicarilla, and it's also old stomping ground for the Nuchu people, who I represent today. Eh? For those of you who don't know me, I am Upetitaka. That is my Pawnee name, which means white star. And I come to you from the land of the Caddo, Comanche, Kiowa, Osage, and Owichita nations here in Oklahoma City. So, with that, we're going to go into our opening prayer, which I have been asked to provide. So I'll be reading from the Howling Crane's Four Directions prayer. So if you all will join me, you all can stand. I'm not really going to face anyway because I don't really know where my compass points right now. But okay, here we go. Light bearer, we now face the east. We thank you for a new day and a new beginning. We thank you for fire, which gives us warmth, light, and protection. We ask that whatever parts of our being need light, that you would shine your life-giving spirit on us, just as Father Sun shines his life-giving light on Mother Earth each new day. Bring light and wisdom to our life's journeys, so we may not walk in darkness. Life-giving spirit, we now face the south. I'm going to try. uh, we thank you for the gift of healing and adaptability. We thank you for the waters of life which nourish our beings. We ask that you would show us how to be fluid like water, so that when new or difficult situations arise, we may navigate them in a good way. Bring abundance to our lives, so we may channel your abundance to the nations around us. Great healer, we now face the west. We thank you for the night as well as the day. We thank you for bringing to light what would have otherwise remained in darkness, and also thank you for the challenges of life that increase our dependence on the light. We ask that whatever arises that is negative, that you would give us clarity to show or to know how to end toxic cycles that don't serve the community of creation or you. Bring rest to our spirits and resolutions to the cycles we encounter, just as our relatives rest when the sun sets each day. Rescuing spirit, we now face the north. We thank you for the spirit of the wind, which breathes life into all of us moment by moment. We thank your life-giving breath for resurrecting what was dead. We ask that our minds and hearts would be nourished and kept well. We ask for good thoughts and for protection from the crooked ways of Coyote, and also ask you for a blessing and guidance to those we perceive as enemies. Bring your protection and purifying presence to revive what needs healing and new life, just as the winds blow the dead leaves from the trees, so new leaves may grow in their place. Spirit which comes to us from Grandmother Earth, We thank you for feeding and supporting us throughout our lives. It is said that when we separate from the womb of our human mothers, you take the place as nourisher, as our mother, the earth. We ask that whatever creator you would have us do with our hands and feet to usher in new creation in the present creation for all our relatives, that we would hear and respond to your voice. We ask you to help us and take pity on us as human beings, so we may use the gifts you provide us in a good way in order to bring more life into the world. Spirit which comes to us from Father Sky, we thank you for the blessings of Life Creator, and we thank you for being near us and speaking with us moment by moment. Remind us of your power when we grow weak. Communicate to us with your love and grow our hearts soft so we may be like a hollow bone that is clear. Henahan nehe. Let it be so. All right. Normally we ask our brother Eshe to do that, but a lot of us are celebrating with our families and we all need time of rest. So we're going to give him that this week, but next week he better be here. Just kidding. For when he sees it, eh? Okay, so next we will be going into our opening song, which is a very special little presentation today, eh? Since this is the Nuchu New Year, the Ute New Year, I decided that I wanted to share a bear dance song with everyone, eh? I'm gonna demonstrate a little bit, eh? Because our last song usually takes place the Monday this weekend here in Ignacio. In Ignacio is our Southern Ute Bear Dance, so that was this weekend. But our last song is the one that lasts the longest one. It can go up to like 2, sometimes 4 hours long, where the dancers are just dancing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in the corral. We just kind of like jog. We kind of like jog and bounce along the way. But since it's before the sunset, I decided that I wanted to, kind of participate in it and to honor my grandma and all of my grandpas and my uncles and all of my relatives who have served in the military for our Southern Ute people. So while Brian is getting the song ready, I will go ahead and adjust all this and put on my shawl. So yeah, so if you all give me just a moment, we'll go ahead and let Brian get it all set up. But yeah, I hope that you all will enjoy this. This happens every single Memorial Day for my people, the Southern Ute people, the Capote and Mawatch people. So yeah, all right, give me one moment. I'll put on my shawl.
While she's changing, I want to.
All right, and the song. Come on. There it goes. So the song is a Ute Bear Dance song, and let me see if they tell me who this is a recording of. It looks like it's the Eddie Bach Senior Singers. Yeah. So that's what.
Yeah, so Eddie Bach Sr. is an elder from the Southern Ute people. I believe that he may have belonged to the Mowatch band, but it's funny because there's a river that goes between like by the Bear Dance grounds, and that's what separates our families on which side of the river you're on and what you speak. So in this case, I would say Mike Taguvin, Duaya, Muni Kaveni, Muni Pamanok. How or I would say Nugara'e Saga Pooch, which means white star in Ute. Nugara'e Kelsey Beth Monroe. And I do not remember what else. I knew how to speak just a little bit of Ute. But yeah, so Eddie Bach Sr., he was a Southern Ute member. There are certain families that have singers that represent the different places amongst our Ute people, like in Fort Duchesne or in Toyac. But yeah, so Yeah, but this one particularly comes from my people, the Southern Ute people. So, hey, all right, whenever you're ready, Brian, I'm gonna go ahead and mute. So yeah, towards the end, I was pretending I was dancing with a man, going back and forth. But the story of the bear dance, I'm gonna share very quickly. Thank you, thank you. Um, there was once a group of warriors who went out into the wilderness to go find food for the people, for the Ute people who had no food at the time, and they stumbled across this bear, and this bear told them that we were all brothers, we were related, that he couldn't be killed. So instead of killing him, he offered this dance to the people. Normally, what they would do is they would all line up in two lines, men on one side and women on the other, and it would just be all lined up along the corral. The reason that there are the growlers, the is because it's like when the bear goes up to the tree and scratches it and makes that sound with his claws. So the and so this bear showed these young warriors how to dance it. And ever since then, it's kind of been a celebration of springtime because we're not allowed to dance it. We're not allowed to listen to the music until the first thunders come to the mountains. And that's when all the bears wake up. So that's why it's called the bear dance. But yeah, my people have been practicing that song or practicing those ways for quite a while. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that in honor of all those people, all of our warriors, and all of my family that I do miss dearly. Because there's a whole celebration that happens during this weekend in Ignacio. So, but yeah, but thank you so much, Good Medicine Way, Brian, Uncle Casey, everyone for allowing me this time to share this. But yeah, so I think next we are going to go into uh, a type of prayer or something that that our dear Brian has to share with us. So while I kind of change out a little bit, I'll go ahead and let Brian do his thing. Eh? But thank you again, Toya.
All right, thank you, Pitaka. That was really cool. All right, so yeah, we're gonna do like a little responsive reading. If you're in-house, it's the paper with a bunch of words on it. And let me share the
Get one.
word.
It's on, all the chairs have one on there. You grab one.
Yeah, there should be. All right, so yeah, so I'll read the parts that are in the normal font, and then the bold there at the end when we say we remember you this day, we'll all say that together through the whole thing. And so yeah, I wrote this a couple years ago for Memorial Day because we often think of just the wars that the military fights and our people who have died in those wars, but there's a lot of wars that are going on that don't necessarily get called wars, but are battles all the same. And so this kind of recognizes that. So here we go. A Memorial Day prayer. For those who fought in foreign lands, following calls for justice, never to return home or behold their families again. For our warriors who fell in wars on foreign lands, we remember you this day. For those who returned home to a society ill-equipped to accept them back and heal their wounds, waging battles with depression, substance abuse, and suicide. For our warriors who fell in wars with isolation, we remember you this day. For those who resisted forces of colonization and empire, protecting the land and relatives from slaughter and desecration. For our warriors who fell in wars against genocide, we remember you this day. For the children torn from their families and herded together in compounds, who resisted being taught that their traditions and language held no value. For our warriors who fell in wars against assimilation, we remember you this day. For those who fought to protect Mother Earth and our relatives in nature from the forces of industrialization bent on despoiling the land for profit. For our warriors who fell in wars against reckless extraction, we remember you this day. For those who fought to protect our Mother Earth and became ill because our mother was poisoned with heavy metals and radioactivity. For those who fell in wars of environmental injustice, we remember you this day. For those who fought to protect all our relatives and communities, who resist the ongoing deprivation, misappropriation, broken treaties, and puppet governance. For our warriors who fell in wars of necropolitics, we remember you this day. For all our relations in continued resilience and resistance, regardless of the battlefield or nature of weapons. For all our warriors who fell in wars to ensure our survival to the 7th generation, we remember you this day, this Memorial Day.
That was very beautiful, Brian. Thank you for speaking out. Eh? And we remember you this day. That was awesome. Eh? But yes, yeah, it's a very special day. Like we said, we're remembering all of those who served for us and gave up their lives for us, especially in all the major wars, World War I, going all the way back to the Revolutionary War, because we had our native people fighting alongside too. We also recognize those from World War II, from the Korean conflict, from Vietnam, most of all. And for those who are serving right now in when they had the Iraqi freedom, when they had the Gulf War, and many of the different wars that are out there. So We pay special tribute to all of you who laid down your lives for us. And we're really grateful. um, but yeah, next we'll be going into the Lord's Prayer from the First Nations version, and Brian will lead us. So go ahead and take it away, Brian.
All right, let me share that one again, and then we can just all read it together. And you can feel free to do the sign language if you remember any of that. Okay. All right. Creator sets free, shows us how to pray. O great Spirit, our Father from above, we honor your name as sacred and holy. Bring your good road to us, where the beauty of your ways in the spirit world above is reflected in the earth below. Provide for us day by day the elk, the buffalo, the salmon, the corn, the squash, and the wild rice, all the things we need for each day. Release us from the things we have done wrong. In the same way, we release others who have done wrong to us. Guide us away from the things that tempt us to stray from your good road, and set us free from the evil one and his worthless ways. I hope, may it be so.
Hey, oh man, I couldn't remember any of the sign language. Just kidding. But we did try, so that was great, and I'm glad that Brian has at least the gist of it. I was watching him on the tiny screen. Okay, so next we'll be going into our smoke signals and giveaway time. So our smoke signals, as many of you know, is our announcements time. In the old days, our people used to go around our home fires and move our blankets to make smoke and send any kind of information that needed to be said between bands, clans, villages, whatever else our people grouped ourselves in. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this to Uncle Casey so that way he can begin our announcement time. So go ahead and take it away, Uncle.
All right, thank you very much. Yeah, well, first off, we'll talk about the book we're still going through, Native, with Caitlin Curtis. We just had a good discussion this last time, and you can still join if you want to, and you can catch up with us. We'll be going into chapter 3, and very different kind of discussion than we have from the other two books that we had. A lot of identity issues in this one here about who we are as Native people and how we need to connect again with that. So that's a really good read. What's going on with that? And Brian, would you introduce your book there? The ladies?
The women's group? Yeah, the women's group meets on Thursdays online at 7 in the evening, and they're going through Kate Armas's Sacred Belonging. And the thing that's nice about that book is that it's set up in a kind of devotional kind of reading format. And so they always read the passage together. So you can feel free to join in, even if you don't have the book or you haven't read anything of the book or whatever. Don't let that be a barrier to you, because you'll be able to just fully participate because of the way they do the session. And Christine Morales is heading that up. And the way we do that one, because they've had some issues with people like spamming their group, is we'll post the Zoom link on our Facebook wall, and then if you just send Christine or Christina a direct message, she'll give you the passcode to get in. And if you have problems getting a hold of her, then just put something up on the Good Medicine Way wall there, and we'll try to get you all connected. But that's Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Kate Armas's Sacred Belonging.
Yes, and our book is on, the Native book is on Tuesday nights at 6:30. Everyone's welcome. Next week, we're going to have Christina Morales going to be our speaker next week. And then we're going to have we'll have to work them in to see how this is going to work out. The InterVarsity group, the Listen group, is going to be with us for the 17th, 18th, and 19th, and they want to join us for the service there. So I think we'll have to work on like some kind of what they're working on maybe. Can ask them about the work that they're doing as they're taking their groups out to have listen groups are to go to different communities and listen, learn, and watch. I know they do many different things there where they go to the communities and the community will have a meal, but they'll start by butchering the sheep that they're going to be eating, and they go through all the details of it. You know, if you've ever been there to a butcher, is that they even take the intestines and wash them out, and they pack them full of meat, and they make blood sausage and all the good things that are going with that. So it's quite a deal. You can't have a weak stomach for that. A funny thing that happened some years ago, my daughter Lilibah, we were at one of these meals, and she went to watch. She didn't know where she was going to go, but she went to watch everybody as they took the sheep, and then they hung the sheep upside down and they did the cut, and she came back and she goes, "Dad, I just seen a crime scene." She says it was pretty traumatic for her, but now she realizes what it was all about. And after everybody worked on the sheep after that for all the different things we did, and then cooking the mutton, it was great. So that maybe we can talk to them a little about that. I'll talk with the leaders of the group there, with Cortland and Rashawn, and the end of the month there. On the 1st of next month, I got 2 people lined up, so we're going to have to see who can come on. But Eshe and Helen Wright are on. But here's a big announcement. We're thinking about taking the July 8th, 15th, and 22nd off from having our big group. But some ideas are floating there that we could possibly have a small Zoom with just community people that want to get together and visit and talk, and then maybe have a Bible study and just go over some ideas. Like I could teach one of them, somebody else could teach one of them, but it wouldn't be the regular Zoom with this meeting set up. We'll give ourselves a summer break, and because summertime is usually a time when a lot of churches, everybody's on vacation, having holidays, visiting friends, and that. So the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd, and then I'll work it out with these 2 here, so somebody will be one of the speakers for the 29th when we come back again. So mark that in your calendar, and we'll put it up on the Good Medicine Way wall as well, so you'll know that day is off, and then we'll probably have a connection for the small group that's coming up. I'm going to be traveling quite a bit that month. That's for one of the big reasons, is that I'm going to be in Michigan for 2.5 weeks. From the 17th, I'll be gone until the 4th of August, and I'll be returning. So that's a long time for me, so to be involved. But a lot of good things. I'll be teaching Cradleboard teachings in Michigan. I'll be going and teaching at a church there, one of the churches in Michigan. And then my Potawatomi gathering is happening as well during that time. Coming up right away is Laura and I and Shondine will be going to the NATE Symposium. And it's going to be in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And that's the academic group that I belong to. We're a fully accredited seminary, and we've been going on. We are 20th anniversary now, but we've only been accredited now for 2 years. And we give master's degrees and doctorate degrees for people. We have roughly 26 professors. 24 of them are indigenous. So that's the greatest thing about it, is that I went to a seminary where some of my professors were indigenous, but most of the universities in that are mostly all non-native, really, in the seminaries. So this one here, we have many indigenous professors. So that's happening, and our meeting goes for 3 days, and we have speakers, and I will be presenting what I'm going to be talking about tonight. kind of sharing a paper, and you can kind of get an idea of what the symposium does. Is we present papers on topics, and the topic this year is dreams and visions and dreaming the future. Because NATES as an organization is at a point where we have been grant money to use to develop the future. And we have, millions of dollars to spend to create programming so that we can move what we're doing into the future. Because the people that gave the money and the association, the accreditation association, they really like what we're doing, and you can just tell by the finances that have come our way. They really want to see what we're doing expand and be a way of getting seminary training. Instead of going, we're like 99% virtual. Yeah, so everything that you get taught is all on the screen, and you don't have to leave your community to go to a seminary, pay the big bucks to live there in somebody else's millionaire town. That's what I get if I go to a school here in Texas, in Dallas. It's like it's amazing how much it costs to go there, and it's not very native friendly, as I found. So when I was there, it's like it's very, very non-native, and you just gotta. It's hard to adjust when you're used to a native community. So that's all happening. So pray for us. We'll be gone for that whole week, and then as soon as we come back, the New Mexico Annual Conference, now it's going to have their first meeting at St. John's United Methodist Church. We've already been signed up. So we have a table. We'll have a table display. I'll be attending the meeting, and then we'll have a couple of people that can sit and visit with people, and you're welcome to come and sit at the table and share with them, be a part of our table display there, and talk to people about how you feel about it and what we do. That would be good. So that's going to be June 12, 13, and 14. It'll be coming up. And then the Jim Thorpe Run. They do a walk as well. So I've been training for that. I'm going to be running the Jim Thorpe Run. That's coming up. And then our listen group is going to be 17, 18, and 19 of June. And they're going to be spending the night here. So we'll separate the women will have one of the rooms over here, and the guys will sleep out here on cots that we have. And the women of the church here at Mesa View are going to put on the meals for them. So I know Twyla knows about this, and the group, and Laura has been working with that. They're going to give them breakfast, and they'll be giving probably a dinner as well. Because the church will be kind of like their home base while they go out and do their things, and then they come back. So it's really going to help them out a lot. So that's what I got. We can go into our giveaway time, or Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me
Yes.
out there? Okay. I just wanted to bring up the struggle over in Arizona at the Oak Flat. It's a site for a sacred site for the San Carlos Apache people that is under threat. The government is negotiating with a large copper mining company from Australia to take down that mountain, which is their sacred place they go for prayers. And it's for copper, for our iPhones and all the stuff that we use copper for. So there's been a lot of effort made to try to slow that down and try to renegotiate that so the San Carlos people can have their place. And they've invited religious organizations to sign amicus brief, which there are 20 organizations, including my denomination, which is now signed on. And if you're interested in this issue, because it's not only there, it's everywhere around the country where corporations come in and take land that has meaning. If you're interested in that, you can go to the Dismantling the Doctrine of Discovery Coalition website. Just Google Dismantling the Doctrine of Discovery Coalition, and there'll be information there about. And you can sign a petition or take it to your organization and try to get them to come alongside and sign the amicus brief that's trying to slow things down in the court system.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, we'll post a link for that on the Good Medicine Way page.
Dismantling
The Doctrine of Discovery.
Yeah, so if you can't find the Dismantling the Doctrine of Discovery Coalition site, we will find it and post a link to it on our Facebook page as well. So
Thank you.
All right, we'll go into our giveaway time. Our blanket is here, and Brian can talk to you about how to give online.
Yeah, so I'll put up our blanket that has a QR code on it that will take you to a PayPal interface where you can give with plastic or digital means if you have those. And then links to those, to that interface is also on the top of our Facebook page. If you have other ways you would like to give that are not financial, please get in touch with us because we love to work with people for creative ways of giving. So feel free to contact us. Lots of people have given us things that they've grown or harvested from nature that we use in our services, or other ways of helping out. And if you want to help out in the service, that's another way you can give. Like Empedadaka was like, hey, I'd like to do a bear dance because it's an important time. So if you know some dances or some songs or whatever, just let us know, and we would love to give you a platform to do that too. So without further ado, let me share our QR code blanket, and then I'll be doing Jonathan Miracle's honor song. Because Memorial Day is about remembering and honoring, and I think it's good to remember and honor the one who took part in the biggest battle and died for us in that battle. But of course, he pulled a one over on everybody by rising again. But it's still the fighting and the dying is still very hard, and so we want to recognize that as well.
For those in house, the blanket is here. Jonathan Miracle has been invited to be the main singer at the Nate Symposium coming up. And hopefully we'll get him. I'll talk with him about him coming here this fall and sharing with us another concert here. He always likes to do about 2 or 3 churches in the area when he's here. So he may be here, maybe out in Ruidoso, and also in Gallup as well. So I'll talk to him about coming out.
Cool. So you didn't hear all that. Jonathan Miracle is going to be the featured song sharer at Nate's. So you're getting a chance to learn all these songs. So if you go to Nate's, you can jump right in and sing along. All right. And if you're in house, these are the other words that were in the chair. Yahweh, 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 Yahweh. Jesus set
is that when he finishes the song, he always does that. You always hear that. So people that have been at his shows, you can hear that in the audience. They all do that. All right, the honor song.
Yep. So next is reading Creator's Word.
Heaven?
I
Heaven?
believe Heaven's going to bring that, right?
I think so. We're doing Acts, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it's Acts chapter 9, 1 through 6 and 10 through 12, and then Acts chapter 10, 1 through 3 and 9 through 11.
Okay.
You got all that? Yeah? Okay.
All right, chapter 9, the rampage of threats and murder. Man who questions Saul was on a rampage, breathing threats and murder against the followers of honored chief, Creator sets free, Jesus. He went to the holy man and asked for written documents to give to the tribal gathering houses in the village of Silent Weaver, Damascus. This would permit him to take any followers of the way, men or women, bind them in chains, and take them to village of peace, Jerusalem, a voice from the world above. And so on his way to Silent Weaver, Damascus, just as he came near the village, without warning, a light from the spirit world above shone down all around him. He fell to the ground and then heard a voice speaking. Saul, Saul, the voice called out his name twice. Why are you pursuing and mistreating me? The man who questions Saul trembled with fear at the sound of the voice that was coming from blinding light. Honored one, he asks, who are you? I am Creator sets free, Jesus, the voice answered. The one you are pursuing and mistreating. Now stand to your feet and go into the village. There you will be told what you must do. And 10 through 12, guidance from a sacred vision. Now in the village there was a man named Creator shows kindness. Ananias, a follower of Creator sets free, Jesus. He was given a sacred vision from the Great Spirit. Creator knows kindness. Ananias, the voice called out to him in a vision. I am here, honored one, he answered back. Get up and go to the house of Speaks Well of Judas in the village of Pathway, called Straight. There you must ask for a man from Tree Village, Tarsus, named Man Who Questions Saul. He is praying right now. In a vision, he has seen a man with your name come to him and lay his hands on him so he might see again. And then Acts 10, 1 through 3. Now there lived a man in Chief Village whose name was Little Horn Cornelius. He was a head soldier in Young Bull's Italian band of the People of Iron Romans. He was a spiritual man who had deep respect for the Great Spirit. He, along with his family, gave with a big heart to the poor and prayed to Creator at all times. One day, in the middle of the afternoon, he had a sacred vision. He could clearly see a spirit messenger from Creator coming toward him. Little Horn, Cornelius, the messenger said to him. Little Horn, Cornelius, could only stare at the spirit messenger and tremble with fear. What is it you want, honored one? Asked the messenger. And then 9 through 11. Another sacred vision. On the next day, as the messengers were traveling and coming close to the village, stands on the rock, Peter climbed up onto the flat roof of the house to send his voice to Creator. It was about midday. He became hungry and wanted something to eat. As they were cooking the food, he fell into a trance and had a sacred vision. He saw an opening in the sky and something like a large, soft blanket that was being lowered to the ground by its four corners. And that's the end of Acts 9 through 11. Thank you.
Thank you, Haven. That was very beautiful. And thank you for answering our call too.
Mhm.
But yes, you chose out some very good scriptures, Uncle. Hey. But okay, so now we're gonna go into our first stillness or centering time. This is a time when we prepare ourselves to hear from our speaker tonight, which happens to be our awesome uncle here, Casey Church. Um, but yeah, so we'll go ahead and let Brian play the Native American flutes to prepare us to hear about the dreams and visions that Uncle has put together to share with us tonight. So go ahead and take it away, Brian.
All right. So tonight we have bringing the message Casey Church, a member of the Waukegan Band of the Potawatomi. Those are the ones who were able to maintain their homelands, and that is where Casey grew up, right?
That's right.
Yeah. And so yeah, they were able to maintain their ancestral homelands, and Casey was one of the early people in the modern struggle to bring contextualization to the Native people for the message of Creator Sets Free. And he's been in the battle for a long time, and had a lot of experiences along the way, and we're going to hear about some of those tonight. And it's still in the battle, and we're making the transition from fighting for spaces to building up spaces. But it's still a struggle all the same. And Casey's been in it from day one. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Casey Church.
You can share screen.
Okay, you should be able to.
All right. Well, this is a kind of an experiment time for me. Wrote this paper some time ago. It's been run through my editors, and this is the paper I'm going to be doing for the symposium. And the topic of the symposium is dreaming the future, because we've come this far over the last 20 years, and now the leaders are going to use this time to develop and listen to folks in their papers and their talks to kind of guide us as we go into the next stage of ministry that we're going to be going into. So this is one of the first times that I've ever seen a Nate Symposium where the topic was about dreams and visions and taking them very seriously as we look to guiding ourselves towards the future. So one of the reasons I had those scriptures that you were read here, every one of them has to do with a vision or hearing the voice of God. And we believe those things happened. They happened in the Bible, they happened to the apostles, they happened to Jesus, they happened all along. It's like a natural part of our world. But when we get to today's world, we don't think about it that much. But we all dream. We all have dreams, and we have visions or desires for a future. So I'm going to read, and what I'm going to do is you can see the image that's on there. If you ever get a chance, this is a movie that you can watch called Thunderheart. And we've got Graham Greene on here. I'll read a little bit of this, the background for this. A growing interest in Native American movies in the early 1990s. There's two significant movies that came up. One of them was Dances with Wolves. You know, the big one. Everybody's watched that many, many times there. But another one was Thunderheart that came out about the same time. And it really caused a stir, and because it was based on things that were happening on the South Dakota with the res situation that they were having out there. So Val Kilmer he came in this movie. He's playing an FBI agent who has native roots. He has genealogy that goes back there, but he has a lot of white genealogy too. So he was working in Washington, D.C., and he really didn't want to connect with his whiteness that much or his Indianness. He just wanted to be an FBI agent. So he gets selected to go out to the reservation because he has native blood. They want him to go out there because to interview the Native American people that were out there to help solve some murders that were happening. So he gets out there, and the guy that he's working with there is Frank Cortell. And Cortell is, you'll find out later in the movie, he's very crooked. Yeah, he's in it for his own gain, and the whole movie centered around mining that's taking place. And he's got his fingers in that pocket there that if he sticks with it, he'll make out. So he was trying to make this all happen. So there's a video clip that we got to doctor up a little bit because there's a little bit of rough language in there. So we're Brian's gonna help me here, and we're gonna see if we can get that video clip. Maybe by next week too, get it so that you can see the video clip and kind of beep out a couple of words in there, so we don't offend anybody. But the gist of what it says here is that. As you see, Thunderheart, he's the FBI agent, and then Graham Greene down here is Crowhorse. He's the kind of the reservation cop that's there. And then the dream that Lavoie has, he has this dream, and I'll read through the dialogue that, and then I'll blurb out the bad words. Lavoie and then Crowhorse conversation here. Just before they caught Jimmy, I had a dream. I was running with the other Indians at Wounded Knee Cemetery. I was shot in the back. Crowhorse says, "You were running with the old ones at the knee?" "It was just a dream," Lavoie. Crowhorse says, "Who are you?" "What do you mean?" "You had yourself a vision. A man waits a long time to have a vision, and he may go his whole life without having one. Then along comes some Indian with a Rolex and a brand new pair of shoes, an FBI agent to top it off. He has himself a vision." Crowhorse. "Oh, maybe it was just one of them, what do you call them, fitful dreams." "Yeah," Lavoie says. "Yeah, fitful dreams. That's what it was." And he says, "No, horse hockey. You had yourself a vision. What do you want me to do? He says, at that point there, they stop, and they're at a point called Red Deer Table. And that Red Deer Table is where the mining is taking place. But he tells him about a dream that he had. And he had a dream of that image that you're seeing now, of a guy riding on a horse at the Wounded Knee memorial there. I've been out there many, many times. I did an immersion class with several people from Sioux Falls Seminary, and we took groups out here for 10 years straight. And so it was like 150 some people that we took out there over the course of those years. And so it's a very solemn, holy place to be, because inside this area right there, there's over 300 bodies, mostly women and children that were shot that day. So, okay, and the other picture that I have here, this is a part of the Lavoie's dream. He was running with the people there. He seen himself running, and his name signifies that he was part of that group, and his name, Thunderheart, is one of the names that are on that memorial statue or memorial that's in that image out there. His name is etched in there. So I wanted to share that at the beginning there, and I'll do this at the symposium, and it kind of lead into my talk. What I'm giving you right now is a lot of dialogue with it. In a lot of cases, what Brian was telling me, that there's a lot of symposiums and a lot of meetings where you go and they only want you to read the script. Whatever you wrote, you only read that. So in my paper, and I tell that my paper is going to be presented in storytelling and in academic reading. So I'm going to give both. And in many places you can't do that. You have to only read what you got written down there. So as I go here, we'll read into this. And it has to do with all my dreams that I've had. All the dreams that I've had and the visions that I've had. The title that I put on this is called The Vision of Hole in the Clouds. And Hole in the Clouds is the interpretation of my native name, Anaquahnonea. That means hole in the clouds. So it's my dream. The vision of hole in the clouds, dreaming the future. Or, I put there, you just had yourself a vision. Quote from the movie Thunderheart. The introduction of my first dream from God. During this time of growing interest in Native Americans, I seemed to be working in the hearts of many indigenous people around the world. Here in the United States and Canada, God made his plans known to a chosen few of indigenous people and placed a dream and vision in their hearts and minds. God's guidance was expressed to each of us. I say us because I'm one of those that God gave the vision to some 30 years ago in a different way. He used the use of storytelling to document the Native American dreams and visions is becoming a more acceptable research approach. In this paper, I would attempt to share how I received my dreams and visions and explain how they guided me in the path to change the future of Indigenous ministry. This was over 30 years. The dreams and visions in this paper will describe, through both academic means and storytelling, of my own personal experiences. However, the main approach will be storytelling. As a ministry practitioner, I follow a traditional road. Yet, I am a pastor of an innovative contextual ministry and an instructor with NAITS. Dreams and visions in some historic Native American legends are taken very seriously, like Crazy Horse, Sitting Bull, Black Elk. Those they're very taken very seriously. To generate change during the turbulent times their tribes were facing. So too, the dreams and visions of today's Native American leaders should be taken seriously in order that they may effectively lead, heal, guide their people through the changing times and issues that they're facing. One of the things that I had to do here, the story I'm going to tell here, is my path to ordination. Hold on. Myself. Oh, it's not going now. Just trying to change the picture.
No, it's not going with this.
I was just clicking.
Yeah, maybe we can hit that arrow. Will that do it?
There we go.
Oh, except now your speaker's on.
Okay. All right, that's not me. Maybe this one. Okay. I'll try to get our speaker.
Yep.
There we go. All right. My path to ordination. One very interesting sidebar, this is a sidebar, concerning the use of dreams and visions in ministry, I have encountered concerning the interview process for qualification for ordaining ministry. In many denominations, a person seeking to enter the ministry must jump through several hoops. So I went through such rigorous interview process when I first began my journey to become an ordained ministry. In the United Methodist Church, one of the requirements is to be taken a psychological evaluation survey and then be interviewed by a psychologist, as you see in the picture there. As part of my assessment, the survey contained several poignant questions that, if answered truthfully, would disqualify me or at least put my calling into question. We know from the Bible that the disciples had visions. They heard the voice of God. They experienced miraculous events such as the Transfiguration. Our Lord Jesus even heard the voice of his Father. He saw visions and even spoke to the devil. Yet these experiences did not disqualify the disciples from ministry. The Apostle Paul was not banned from entering into ministry. We know that on the road to Damascus, he heard a voice. He saw a bright light, lost his sight, and then regained his sight from prayer. During my psychological interview, I was asked if I had experienced supernatural phenomena. I hesitated to answer and didn't answer fully in writing or in person. How would you answer the questions? Have you heard voices? Have you had dreams? Have you had visions? Have you experienced things you couldn't explain? Have you had strange experiences of spiritual events? Today's evaluation process, these are the kind of questions that you have to answer to go into the ministry. I have heard voices of Jesus. I've had dreams. I've had visions, and even had some supernatural experiences, and yet Christ has still found me worthy to go into Christian ministry. This is the first time that I've heard of symposium where they allowed just kind of talking about visions openly to happen. And the main reason, like I said, is to guide them in their way to understand where they're going to go. But one of the things I had to explain to them in my native traditions, and probably yours too, is that your vision may be this big. But if you tell your whole vision, you've given it away. So our traditions say if you're going to tell a story about your vision, you can only tell this portion, or this portion, this portion, or this portion. You can't tell the whole thing. So the way I wrote the paper is that I only picked out different points of my visions that I share in this paper. My vision came in a three-part calling. I heard a voice. So this is exactly what happened to me. And this is a part that I'll either story tell or I'll read. But the gist of it is that in Michigan, when I was 28 years old, I got a call to ministry that because they wanted someone younger to be at the meeting where it was all older folks. And so I came in there as a voice for the youth because they weren't being represented very well. So I was there and I sat with the group. But I'll read this. But my denominational background, and many of you kind of know this already, but people at the symposium are not going to know my background. I grew up in the Salem Indian Mission. There's my church. This part here in the back wasn't there. It used to be only this front part, and the entryway was in the front here. But they revamped the whole thing and turned it around, so the pulpit is up in front now, and the pews are towards the back. So that's where I grew up. It's called the Salem Indian Mission. The church was my whole life. But it didn't allow me to use any of my Native American traditions or culture. Only the white Western religious traditions were the United Methodist Church. The church building was established and built by my grandfather, the late Elton Church. Although it was an Indian mission, my grandfather was a full-blood white person. He migrated from Michigan from Pennsylvania and married my grandmother, Sarah Medewas, a full-blood Potawatomi from Pine Creek Reservation. The couple, along with other families, were the charter members of the Salem Indian Mission. Elton was a Christian, and Sarah was raised with her native spiritual traditions and a midwife and an herbalist. Together, they agreed to raise their children in a Christian way. This was mostly due to the pressure placed upon the native people in the area to assimilate to the white ways of living. This was the environment that I grew up in, and I struggled with both to be native and a Christian. This is where it began. So I add that little section in there just to share this is where I came from. My calling from God, and another image of a church there is called Keewaydin Indian Mission. This is in upper Michigan, not quite as far as Mackinac Bridge. As I sat in the meeting listening to the leaders taking care of their church business, my mind started to ponder how I could make the needed changes to grow the churches. Sitting 7 rows back from the front, something highly unusual happened. As I looked forward at the leaders' table, I could see all the gray hair on those that are attending the meeting. I was the only one with black hair, except for a few ladies who had gray roots showing. And everybody giggles. So, I heard a voice speak to me. In one phrase that stuck with me, the voice said, "Who is going to take their places?" At that point, I said out loud, "I am." Saying it out loud caused quite a stir. As everyone turned around to look at me, I believe some of them probably thought that I had fallen asleep and woken up startled. Damien Costello, in his book, Blackout, Colonialism and Lakota Catholicism, describes how something similar happened in the life of Blackout. How does someone have a vision? What qualifies as a vision? How should it come to someone? And what should it look like? I can say with my own history as a Christian Native man that they came in various ways and types. In Blackout's great vision, he says that he would hear voices now and then. Later, the voices that came back when he was out alone, and sometimes they would call to him. So what now? This was only the beginning. As the meeting broke for lunch, I sat with 2 of my mentors, Uncle Lewis White Eagle Church and Joe Shine Sprague. They called him Shine because he was so dark that his skin would shine. So that's how he got his name. And my uncle there, my dad's brother. I recounted what I had just experienced. They looked at me seriously and asked me to explain to them more fully what I had seen. When the meeting resumed, the events that followed changed my life forever. In Damien's book, he shares how the vision of the 6 grandfathers changed Blackout's life. The vision was a call to become a holy man. I didn't see my calling to become a holy man, but as a mission to start a lifelong journey. When the meeting resumed, my mentors shared with the attendees that what they perceived as a calling from God on my life. They proceeded to invite all of those to come to the altar and place their hands on me and pray. At a second encounter with God, I felt as if someone, but not one of those that were praying, from the spiritual realm had taken a container of warm oil and slowly poured it on my head. The feeling of the warm oil went down my head all the way down to my toes. I was saturated with this warm feeling. I had been called into the Lord's ministry. What followed was the beginning of a time of contemplation and preparation. I had been working at, I'll share this picture first. I had been working for a time of contemplation. I had been working as a die-cast machine builder with Prince Corporation in Holland, Michigan. During the years that followed my calling, I resigned my job and I sold my house. That was my first little house in Hamilton, Michigan. Cute little town. They always say it was a dry town, but from my experience with this dry town, there were many wet basements. So that's me. Those are the machines that I built. And my job here was to put that 200-ton machine that I did, we're standing in front of it, it's sitting on the floor behind me, that black line that's against the floor. That's the top of a railroad car. My job was to put that machine on top of that railroad car and then send it off to Kokomo, Indiana. So I was pretty big job there for a little guy. I only weighed like 140 pounds there. I've heard that many people who had felt the calling into ministry started to search for Bible college to attend. 40 years earlier, an uncle of mine had such a calling, and he went to the Nazarene Indian Bible College here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I thought, what better place to study than at an Indian Bible college, right? You know, I'm young. I don't know what God's plan for me, but I want to work with Native American people, so why not go to a college that is all about Indians? Following my vision, I knew I was being led to create a new avenue to bring the gospel message to Indian people within their Native American cultural context. The focus was to do ministry without having them give up their cultural identity or their traditional ways. When I arrived at NIBC, I spoke to the admissions director, and they basically told me, we do not teach what you're looking for, saying, not now, not ever. They made it pretty clear to me that I would only teach the white Western approach to Christian education. Extremely disappointed, I returned to Michigan and enrolled in Grand Valley State University to study anthropology. While attending GVSU, I also had the opportunity to study with the Anishinaabe Medewan spiritual teachings during the summer. The Medewan are the keepers of the spiritual teachings. These summers taught me much more of our traditional ways and values that would become invaluable for my future ministry. In my graduating year, a small team and I started All Tribes Gathering in the summer of 1996. Also during these years, several of my future NATES colleagues were attending the World Christian Gathering of Indigenous People in New Zealand. So this is the Medewan image. This is where we had All Tribes Gathering. It was a church that was a full gospel church was meeting in this building. It used to be an old union hall, and it was in an industrial area, but it wasn't being used anymore. So this church, this Holiness Church that was there, we rented Tuesday nights from them. Tuesday nights. So also during this time, my colleagues, they were attending a meeting in New Zealand. I didn't attend a meeting because I was busy starting one of the first contextual ministries here on Turtle Island. So next portion here, the outcome of years of preparation. Caitlin Curtis, from this book here, in our Potawatomi traditions, he says, we believe we are in the time of the seventh fire. The seventh prophecy, when the young people will return to our ways, take up our traditions, learn our languages, and put things right again. These were my traditional teachings as well. How does this play out for me as it relates to my vision? Like the life-changing words of Thunderheart, I had myself a vision. Having a vision has changed my life and the trajectory of my ministry. Dreams and visions are alive and well in Native communities, if only we have the awareness that they're there. We have all heard the quote from Scripture, "Young men will dream dreams," from Joel. This is me and the outworkings of the Seventh Fire teachings. I am a young Potawatomi man. I am seeking change that will, as Curtis notes, put things right again. So here's my situation. I have visited different churches. I have always concerned me that the order of liturgy and the services of most denominational churches is extremely similar. That's me. Look at that dark hair. I did not dye my hair ever, and this was taken. And we made quite a stir up there too. So this came out of the Grand Rapids Press when they did an article on me of a new church start in Grand Rapids with Native people. So this is a picture of the inaugural World Christian Gathering of Indigenous Peoples in New Zealand. A picture of the book from Caitlin Curtis. I fell behind here, and the way this is going to work is that as I read, I won't be doing this. My daughter, Sean Dean, she'll be following along with me, and every time I get to that point, there's a note on here that says, click that picture. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of falling behind here. So there, similarities. There is notable uniformity, conformity. Now I attend a United Methodist Church, and I can say with certainty most use a common lectionary for sermons as well. You don't even get creative. It's just like, open the book, that's what we're going to preach on today. At most churches in the whole community, all the Methodist churches in the whole community are going to preach from that one scripture. But a lot of them, some of them, they preach topically, or they do series. Not all of them use the common lectionary. But this is very, very common among churches. That's how they get their ideas for preaching. So no matter where you go, if you go to attend another church, you know where they are. From my observation, I consider these churches what I call imagination-free zones. Except for the style and size of the building, the accoutrements they use in their service, they look, they sound, and they feel the same. You can imagine it's pews, pulpit, altar. Every one of them the same. Yeah. There's the common lectionary. They all look, sound the same. White Western style churches have been the only expression of Native people were given to worship God. It was used as a continual assimilation mode meant to take away our identity as Native people beginning in the mid-1800s. Our Native people, in order to survive these tumultuous times, adopted the white Western expressions of Christian worship. These hegemonic approaches are the carryover from a forced removal from our homelands to boarding school area, to relocation to cities, to internment on reservations. They extended to the mode, even to the church. They were meant to erase any evidence of our culture and traditional life. For me, the way to make things right is to step out of that realm, venture into the creativity of the Seventh Fire. The time I spent in 1988 was only God's preparation for preacher ministry. The start of All Tribes Gathering in Grand Rapids, Michigan in 1996 was just the beginning of living out the call I received when I heard the voice. How long have I been going?
20 minutes or so.
20 minutes, we'll go another 10. Another 10. I know when I do this paper, I'm just going to have to pick and choose what portions I want to read, because I got 45 minutes to get 45 minutes. Yeah. So is that all right? Sound good? Because I want your guys', if you find a little card, I think there's cards behind the seat there. is write down a question that you think a small group might want to ask me after I'm done with my paper. Because when I'm done, we're going to break out, we'll take a break, and then we'll get into small groups. There'll be about 150 people, so there'll be about 15 groups meeting all over the campus to do this. And they'll be talking about this paper and other people's paper as well. And get a drink here. We all know that book. It's one of my favorite. But you kind of see the way I wrote this is that I wrote, this is like Paul, like the visions that we just read, is that there was always a situation that Paul was in, okay? He's persecuting the church, okay? And then, boom, he has a vision. And then, boom, he becomes the apostle, the great apostle Paul. Mm-hmm. So there's like something leads to it, he has the vision, and then here's the outcome of the vision. So the same thing happens in all of those. It kind of really fits my idea of liminality. Liminality is just the opposite of linearness, I tell people. White Western world is linear. You start here and you end up over here. But in my Native American world, I call it liminal, because we start, we do, and we come back. We start, we do, we come back. We're always in a process of sacredness and ceremony. Our life, when we wake up in the morning, we're no longer sleeping. We begin to wake up, we have our day, and we go back to sleep. We have our wake up, we have our day, we go back to sleep. We have this cycle that is part of our life, and that's part of our it's actually ceremony all the time. The events leading to stepping out into my vision. So now that I got this vision, now where do I go? Now that this church thing has started, excuse me, I'm drinking cola. I had been struggling for many years with the issue of why Native people were told they had to change to become believers in Christ. While taking an English class in college, I was assigned to write about unsolved issues that I had been struggling with at the time. I couldn't believe it. I used the opportunity to put my thoughts down in paper. As I considered the subject matter, I started to see more clearly how my convictions could change the direction of Christian ministry and what the outcomes might be. I couldn't get it out of my mind. God made me a Native person and not a white person. And that was that there. Richard was following Jesus the way God made you. So I was a Native person, not a white person. Why could I not form a Jesus belief system from within my Native culture and values in the same manner that white Western Europe had for over many years? Black Elk participated in both Lakota traditions and Catholicism at the same time. Black Elk did not need to deny either one, but could accept both as distinct ways of life. This had not been the case for my life, my spiritual walk. I had to choose either to live in a Christian way I was taught, or to live in my traditional Native way. There was no middle ground. The gospel message came to indigenous people from Europe when Paul crossed the Aegean Sea and entered the land of the indigenous white people of southern Europe. From the very start, indigenous white people began to create an expression of Christianity, Christian way of life within their own cultural context. In Christianity Rediscovered, Vincent Donovan notes that he, as a Catholic missionary, had no right to disturb the body of customs and traditions. It was their way of salvation for those people, their way to God. I just knew there was something wrong with how I had been taught, and I was determined to try, even if it was to fail, to create an expression of faith that could meet the spiritual needs of my traditional people. Further, I kind of knew that if I was to buck this Christian system, there would be consequences to pay. But someone had to step out. Someone had to be the first one to challenge it. Everett Rogers, a scientist, his concept of diffusion of innovation says that a person in this situation would be known as an innovator, one who leads the way towards needed change. The change that I was moving toward would be perceived, as I found out, as pushing Christendom's hot buttons. Even so, I was determined to act on my vision and not be disobedient to my calling. Later, I worked on a book with Matthew Milner. I actually wrote the foreword to this book. Later, I worked on a book with Matthew Milner, The Everlasting People, G.K. Chesterton, and the First Nations. In it, Milner quotes Rachel Wheeler, saying, in the section on the talons of Christ, you know what talons are? Can you picture? These are Christ's talons, the talons of Christ. That native Christianity is not a mark of inauthenticity, as it is often perceived, but it is a sign of revitalization in the face of overwhelming pressure. It is this perspective that encouraged me. I see the challenges to claim my heritage in connection with my beliefs in Jesus as what Milner calls creative resistance. He explains, the full force of indigenous Christianity is best perceived when understood as a form of creative resistance. The stories of my ministry have been one of continued resistance from the established ministers in Native ministry, because almost none of those I encountered could picture an expression of Christianity outside their own ministry box. The creative resistance mentioned by Milner precisely reflects my style of ministry. I am not afraid to create a stir. I have done so for 30 plus years. All the pushback of my approach that had made me even more determined to strive even harder to create indigenous expressions of Christian faith. With all of the baggage to carry, it is no wonder the following spiritual experience took place. One more story, and then, we'll stop there. And then we'll leave that one. Spiritual and traditional precedents for dreams and visions. There are hundreds of passages having to do with dreams and visions in the Bible. To take the topic into the next current day source of research information, Google states, word dream appears 87 times in the Old Testament and 8 times in the New Testament. And similarly, the word vision appears 86 times in the Old Testament and 17 times in the New. I will not mention all of these biblical references, but I will note a few of them, as I have already done in the scriptures that we presented. Most well known related to my dreams. They include Paul's vision on Damascus Road, Peter's vision on the rooftop, and we didn't mention it in the scriptures, but John's vision in the book of Revelations. We as Christians accept these occurrences as fact based on faith. There are various ways in which people receive dreams and visions. They are well documented in scripture. Dreams and visions have different processes. They can give direction, they can call a calling on your life, or predict future events. In my case, I needed direction for dealing with unresolved issues and seeking solution to problems in ministry. The second part of my calling came to me through the dream in the night. Job says of dreams, in dreams, in the vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on people, when they slumber in bed. Job 33. This was when I had what I would call my great vision, as John Neihart describes in Black Elk. Having been raised in a Native community, I was aware of the Native traditions from my family members and the local spiritual leaders. My mother and father never attended boarding school, but they know people who had. Our family was very influential in the community and tribe, as we have, it was never been documented, but I believe my great-great-grandfather Leopold Waukegan had a vision to take care of his people in his community during the 1830s, when changes were being forced upon them. Native people in the Midwest had been forced to leave their homeland and relocate reservations in Kansas. My great-great-grandfather, Leopold, took the situation and rallied several families to play the game, the assimilation to the white ways of life. He went as far as to travel to the Catholic Diocese in Detroit to request that a Catholic priest be sent to observe his community and thus help convince the U.S. government that they were in compliance with the government demands. As the result, it was just my opinion, but knowing Pokagon family history and heritage, I believe that Leopold saw a better future, a vision for a better future for his people, and acted on that desire, dream, to change the world. All right, so I'll stop there. So I wrote this to get something off my chest. So, yeah, I just really. So there's cards behind the seat. If you can think of something, anything, it will help me put a question together. So we'll open it up to you all in the virtual world here too. And the next part that we'll go on to next week is I'll be reading through part 2, Hole in the Clouds. The Dream, a Native Boy on a Vision Quest. So these are things that actually happened to me. I sat in a church and I watched and I looked at the gray hair, and then I listened and a voice spoke to me, not just in who's going to take their places, but it was a short dialogue. And that's how it came to me. It's like 31 years ago that I heard the voice, and from that point on, like I said, I quit my job. At that time, I was making $35,000 a year. Comparatively to now, it's like $75,000 a year. It's almost double. I left a lucrative. I mean, the Dutch guys there, they all wondered, what do you do with all your money? You know, because I was single. I said, well, I bought the sports car. Yeah. I always tell them I was single at the time. There was no Laura Morgan in my life yet. And I tell people, I says, well, the one thing about getting a sports car is that every young man needs a chick magnet. So it helps with dating. So. Questions? Any?
We can do a little reflection time and get everybody a chance to kind of gather their thoughts. And then, we'll open it up. All right, so yeah, floor is open for questions or comments.
I have a comment
Sure, go ahead, Twan.
and a question, kind of together. Because I totally believe in everything you just said. And I have minimally experienced, what I would call a heard God. I can't say I've ever really had a vision, but something within me longs to. And by that I mean, when Tommy and I came to Albuquerque to become pastors for the first time, we were approached by the overseer, he was called, in the denomination that we came here to minister with. And so we were both praying, about it in a way, but Tommy had kind of already knew that God said, yes, you need to go. He worked at City Service Oil in Portales, and there were 6 of us, and he was bringing home around $3,000 a month back in 1980s. We came here in 83, and we came here for nothing. There was no income in the little church that we took. There was no salary.
Right.
There was no parsonage. So we lived in the church by taking over the Sunday school rooms, but there were no children to teach but ours. And so when we were approached and we were praying about it, it's a big decision. You're uprooting your whole family, your little kids. And so Tommy decided that he probably would, but he would pray at work a lot. He was out in the middle of nowhere and he had opportunity to talk to God. And on one Monday morning after church on Sunday, when we had been asked to do this, I would have my own personal Bible study at home after my kids all went to school. And then I was praying, and it was winter. It was in January. It was very cold in Portales in January. And we had a wall heater, those wall heaters that blow, but they don't really heat the whole house, and it was a cold little house we were in. So I had my Bible in the floor, and I was just kind of laying there facing the heater, reading the Bible and praying. And the little house that we lived in, and it was tiny, had an old-fashioned door that had the window in it about that big, and I couldn't even see out it. It was that tall, and I was that short. But it had the wooden little pane across it. And as I was praying, it's as though I heard God say, go. Audibly, go. And then as I was crying and praying and asking the Spirit, is this real? At that moment, 10 o'clock or so in the morning, as the sun was coming through that front door window on the carpet, which was brown, it wasn't a rectangle, it was a cross. And as I looked down and saw that cross and remembered go, I knew that it was okay for us to come here and start the ministry. And I would call that more of not a vision, I don't know what it would be called, but I knew that that's what it was. So we came, and it was a learning experience, and I'm still here. But my question would probably be more like, does everyone have visions and dreams? Does God just put it on anyone? Or do you have to be in a select spiritual place in your life for God to do that?
Everyone has dreams, we know. A lot of times we wake up, we can't remember them. As soon as we wake up, it's like,
Can't figure out what it was
poof,
for.
it's gone.
Why was that dream there?
Yeah, that's right. It's a great time for figuring things out. A lot of times some of the geniuses that we've heard of is that they seen the answer to their big research question in dreams and figured them out. The thing is that in Native people, like I've always said, is that we have a better connection to this unconscious world better than white Western people who have had 1,500 years of trying to separate the mind and body and spiritual and humanity. They've had 1,500 years of that. When they came to us, we still had this spiritual connection, and they battle with our understanding that. And so the hippies want it, and people want to get back to it, and
Yeah.
they want to get in there and know what we know, and that's why there's such a resurgence. But you got to cultivate it. You got to know that they're there, and why are they there? And a lot of times they're going to work off, like what I said, they're going to work off from, there's a situation you're working on. You're trying to figure something out, and then the answer comes in the dream. And you got to pay attention to that native side of you. You got to pay attention to that, and then interpret it yourself and see how it works out. And that's what I've had to do. Yeah, and that's why some people have dream interpreters,
Yeah.
because a lot of people will go. The people who have lost touch have to go to a dream interpreter. But a lot of times, you yourself can figure it out.
So I do have an interest in dreams and visions, and I know there are like a lot of like visions mentioned in the Bible, but I'd say I'm pretty new to the Bible. With I just never had the Bible involved in my life, like ever, just because that's just the way I grew up. But I did do like kind of just growing up. I really did like was interested in like those kind of like dream meaning kind of like books and whatnot. And then as I grew up, I just like to do research about dreams and like Carl Jung, like the Swiss psychiatrist who had a different point of view towards like human psychology, like than Freud. They're actually academic rivals, but Carl Jung had believed that like dreams had a significant role in our psychology, whereas Freud didn't believe that, like that there wasn't anything in the unconscious. But like Carl Jung also believed in kind of like the collective unconscious, the collective kind of like spirit. And he took a lot of inspiration. Not a lot of people know this about Carl Jung, but he took a lot of inspiration from Native Americans. He lived in New Mexico for a little while, so he was very fascinated with talking to like the elders. If you ever get a chance, like just look him up and like, I don't know, read research papers because it's very interesting. But there are also a lot of times in history where visions and dreams played a significant role in like significant people in history, like Joan of Arc. There is a painting of her like leaving her like cabin in the woods home. And most of the paintings you see her are like her in armor and whatnot, like, and the reason why she did all that she did, like, join, kind of like dress up as like as a male and, join the army and kind of like lead the French Revolution. That's just kind of like a watered down version, but she had a vision from God that was telling her to do that, and like it was like directing her, and it was a very significant like vision that she just believed in and like followed in. And it was just really sad, like when they went after her and put her on the stake, and I think her last words were like, oh Jesus," and it's really sad, like we're learning about that. I think another vision dream that I've heard about in history too was a mathematician in the 1920s. He was from India, and he made a lot of headway in math. Like he not only like solved these kind of like equations that were incredibly difficult for like even like the most like Ivy League mathematicians in the U.S. Could never figure out, and he figured out a lot of them in his dreams. And he actually had a vision that he met one of the goddesses, one of the Indian goddesses, that kind of showed him like the equations and like kind of presented new equations to him in the dream. And like it just blew the mind of like mathematicians at the time, because they're like, we didn't even think of these questions or these equations. It was just like at another level really. And like he described his like dreams about like, the Indian goddess, and she had like a red screen almost. That was like the the same color of blood is what he said, and that like she was writing on it, and like in the dream it was just so interesting. And years later his mom also talked about having a dream from that very same goddess. When her son talked about wanting to go to school in England, she was very against it. She was like, no, I don't want you to do that. And he was like, like I want to do that. And she had a dream, like that same goddess that showed up in his dream telling her to stop getting in her son's way because he has a road to greatness and you're in his way. So it's very interesting to like just learn about those kind of like famous visions throughout history that really just kind of changed the, like, you know, not like the entire world, but like maybe the world in mathematics or, you know, their country's history and kind of like leading a rebellion and whatnot towards a better future. And I don't know, it's definitely very interesting. And I think, let me go to my question, hold on. So I think my question was whether, or did you ever have times where you doubted yourself or doubted your vision? And like, how did you deal with those kind of like, those doubts or difficulties?
I've always had difficulties. It has never come easily. And the doubts that would come, my vision was pretty clear, and I knew that I had to be obedient to it. So, but the doubts would come, is this the direction? I know I have different options to take in my vision. Is this the best way to do it? Or is this one? Because I got different options. I think about, because when in the early 90s, there's a dozen to eight to a dozen people across the country, almost at the same time and era, got the same vision to do something like I was doing. Is that the white Western way of Christianity has dropped the ball. They have failed to bring the message of Christ to the Native people because you have to do it in this package. You don't have any other choice to do it. Put my white world in your Indian world and try to find Christ. That's the only package we've ever had. And we knew it. So I was looking at, but the outcome, there's different ways to do it. So Richard Twist, he had one way of doing it. He was like the voice. He was the person that had the voice. And there was Randy Woodley. Randy Woodley is the man of words. He can write a book overnight. And he can just, that's him. Terry LeBlanc is just this philosophical mind that can just battle anybody's question. His apologetics are just phenomenal. I'm in awe about it. And then there's Casey Church, the person who actually tries to do it on the ground. We all got a different direction given from God, but of the same idea. It's stretched all over all of us. There's Cheryl Bear, music.
Yeah.
There's Jonathan, music. So some people got the same thing. All of us have written books. Yeah, we've all written books about it. So we're trying to share. But the doubts that I have were never a doubt is that, should I stop doing this? Should I just give it up? That had never been a question to me. It's always been go, but is it this way or that way? One great philosopher said once in a while, when you get to a fork in the road, take it.
Yeah, so do you get to a point where you feel like a vision that you've had is somewhat fulfilled and then you need to move into another space of being open to the next whatever you're called to, or do you feel like it's a kind of an arc that's just guiding you all the way to
just
the
like
end?
that. It's a continual thing. My arc will never have an end.
Okay.
I will take this until I breathe my last breath. My calling is to just keep doing it, no matter what hardship comes. I'm talking about Twyla. I got a picture of us leaving Grand Rapids to come here, and it's a picture of us holding four babies. Four babies. You know, we got Shondine, we got Lily, we got Najoni, and we have a newborn. That's when we moved here. And we moved here without no paychecks, and all we had was a family that helped us find a house.
That was the same thing for us too. Only we had a tornado that blew our house down.
That was-
And
yeah.
that was a real sign.
Yeah.
But we felt the same thing. So it
Yeah.
feels really,
And
This-
the thing though that I learned was God is there. And we struggled and struggled, but we didn't really want for anything.
right.
And our church was only 20 people, and they were mostly elders, retired people with no real big income. But God provided.
That's right. I think the provision is
And Tommy
that
was not allowed to work.
we have a contentment with the
Yeah,
basics.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
Right.
then there's other groups, the 10% that own most all the money in the
Yeah.
world.
yes.
You know, the biggest problem they have they hate is that I have to wait in line to get a yacht.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. But it was, to me, a miraculous that it happened. And then after I got married even, there were times that God revealed himself to me, but not in a vision, just in the action of it. Does that make sense? And by those revelations, I knew that we were following God. Because when Tommy got called to the ministry, he was working in grants. And he came home one night and said, I quit my job. And I said, what? He said, we're going to Bible college in Waxahachie, Texas. We used his last paycheck to rent a tiny U-Haul and just keep our baby furniture for our oldest baby, and moved across to Texas, where he got his education for ministry, preparation. And I just knew, I wasn't afraid. I knew God was going to take care of us. I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he was 24. So I just knew. And I guess, but now at the place I'm at now is I'm almost begging God to reveal himself again.
Yeah.
Like he did that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, like Ken was saying, I started a church in Michigan, and I wasn't called to pastor that until my last breath. My call was to raise up this group. The next story that we're going to talk is the story of that church that started up there.
Yeah.
Is that we started and a team just fell together. It's like, thank you, Lord. It just that person, all these people came. We opened the doors for our very first meeting, not knowing what was going to happen, but I had been preparing a lot in the early 90s. I went to Saddleback Community Churches, church planting. I went to Willow Creek Community Churches, church planting. But I didn't go there to create a mega church. What they had right was the principles of church planting in a different culture. That's what I picked out. I wasn't trying to get, unchurched Terry and Mary. I was trying to reach how do the principles they're using work with me working in a Native community. Their principles were right. The mega church thing, I didn't care anything about that. Is that because the future of the church is going to be small pockets of people. Yeah. It's going to be small pockets of people. That's the future of the church.
Yep.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Heaven.
Thank you for sharing this. I like the scriptures you picked because they highlighted that visions are in the Bible. And I think a lot of times it's hard when people talk about visions because they require us to believe. And that's a hard thing to do. So it's easier to dismiss visions than it is to step into the belief it will require to grow a relationship, to understand someone's vision and speak their language. This is funny to me that the Nate Symposium is about dreams, because before I ever started watching Good Medicine Way or before I ever came out west, I took a class at Dreams Are Possible. And Dreams Are Possible is this place that used to be an old rundown candy store on the west side of my town. And they made it into like a place where women learn trade skills and like community skills. And it was funny because when I was boarding my Amtrak train to come home, I was watching the NATE Symposium. And it was just funny that you'll be speaking at the NATE Symposium about dreams this year. And, you know, it's just funny the way God talks to you in odd ways. I thought about what you said about fragmentation. And like fragmentation is the opposite of being in a space to be able to dream. And so it's like visions and dreams are fruits of the spirit that require nurturing and nourishment to become something, you know? So I think it's hard to talk about dreams and it's hard to talk about visions because it's like the beginning stages of forming words. And that's a hard place to be, and it's a hard place to start communicating, but it's a very necessary place to begin talking. And I appreciate what you said about liturgy, because I think it's so annoying. Like when I go to a church that has the same liturgy, I kind of die inside a little bit. And I think like this is how quarter time retirees get stuck serving forever because they don't want to invest in the dreams or believe in the process of failure that young leaders will need to be supported through to take the place that needs to be filled. And so, like, thank you for saying that because it just heals my wounds. And I also think it's important to think about when we think about discipleship, a lot of the times we idolize 12 disciples. And like, think about how odd it would be to only have 12 disciples and to think you were Jesus when you were leading a church, you know? And how important it would be to understand that growing disciples goes beyond you, and how each person that you're interacting with will be given the chance to grow into their discipleship. And it'll be the process of nurturing their dreams and those odd little moments of like first forming words about believing. So I think that's all I had to say. I don't really know if there's a question in there, but thank you for sharing.
Well, I like the little portion you said about the monotony of retirees. It's like, I can't imagine why someone wouldn't want to be as creative as possible. Because one of the dreams that I had, it's not written down, but the dream that I had is that I'm standing in front of God as I'm entering heaven, and he asked me, did you do everything possible to make my son known to your people? And I want to stand there and say, I tried everything that I could imagine to do that, Lord. And because I don't have all the answers, but everything in my capacity, I did my very best, Lord. And he said, enter. You know, that's what I want to hear, is that, you know, I could not be a retired pastor and do the same monotonous thing every week to people who are numb and are only here because out of tradition. They're only here, they sit and listen for an hour and they go. Sure, there's some spiritual food they're getting every week. But man, if we could all get a vision to plant a church, if we could all get a vision to be creative and imaginative and make something happen, wow, what we could do. But you can sit in dead churches and you just know, man, there's a triage unit in the back pew, you know. It's just like we're dead. Sometimes they say, well, I'm glad they're bringing flowers and put them on the altar because at least something's alive here.
Yeah. I think there are some, like, I don't want to, be like, oh, if something doesn't minister to me, then it doesn't minister to anybody. So I think there are some people that are ministered to by those churches, but to your point, like, those churches are like the vast, vast, vast majority of churches. And there's a lot of people that those kinds of churches do not connect with at all. And so, what you're doing with Good Medicine Way and just all the contextual stuff you did is going after a group of people that those churches absolutely do not work for. And I think back to what you were talking about, Nikki, and I think Twyla kind of hit on it a lot too. But there's another part in the scripture, where Paul talks about like the race doesn't go to the fastest, but it goes to the one who just keeps going until the very end. So it's really I think a calling to ministry, but I think any of our lives in general is about going the distance, about like that persevering, because there are times when it's really hard, and there are times when you're just like you might not question your vision, but you might question like, God, why did you give that vision to me? Because this is really hard, and I don't want to do this today. And so I think that's why I think like it's also important that God may give you a vision or a calling to get you into a certain place, but that doesn't mean that you're the only one doing it. And that, and like Casey said, there was a lot of people who got the same sort of calling at the same time. So God was doing a larger movement that Casey was like one part of. But if Casey would have met like all these guys and been like, no, that's my vision, you guys have to go do your thing somewhere else. But he recognized like, oh wow, God gave us all the same vision to do this. How can we work together? So I think part of that being able to persevere is not trying to go it on your own, and like finding people to support you and to work with you, and having the humility in it to be like, like, hey, I need some help here. I think that's one of the hard things for people who have been very self-sufficient and affluent in parts of their lives, and God calls them to ministry where they don't have the same kind of financial stability that they're used to, that it's very uncomfortable for them to ask for help because they're used to being able to provide for themselves. And so I think there's a lot of humility that comes with it too. But I think, and again, to what Casey was saying about trajectory and that Ken touched on, I think sometimes God will give us a vision or a calling to get us to a certain place. But then I think we have to look at that to like say, okay, God moved me from here to here to do this thing. So where does that line point to? And so sometimes you don't need a new vision for every single step. Like God gives you that initial vision to steer you in the right direction, and then you just got to keep going. Like for me, the first ministry I ever went into full time, I had a very specific calling for it. But I can say like the last 12 or so years of my life, God has done crazy changes in my life. But I never had like a sense of a clear like vision or voice, whatever. I was just like, okay, God, these are my options. I'm trying to follow you. This is what I believe your heart is. How do I step forward in this? And then I would feel like an opportunity would open and I would just step through that door and then keep going. But like 12, 15 years ago, if you would have told me, hey, Brian, in 2024, you're going to be sitting with this guy doing this native ministry and you're going to be a nurse at the VA hospital, and I would have been like, you obviously had me confused with somebody else, because there's no way my life is going in that direction. But, God has his way of leading and guiding us. So, yeah, so I think just to be open to that, and I think it's important to learn to discern what's direction from God and and what's other things that may lead us in a wrong way.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to dreams and visions, I think sometimes we have dreams that are just revealing what's going on in our head, and we need to learn how to look at that and say, like, okay, what is this telling me about my mental state? What is this telling me about I'm worried about that maybe I don't realize I'm worried about, and how do I, minister to that? And then sometimes God comes in and gives us a very specific vision that's not necessarily about what's just going on in our own headspace. So I think both things are very valid and they're both very useful, but I think it's good to understand the difference and how to approach them too. But Petadaka has been waiting for a while, so go ahead, Petadaka.
Hey, oh man, Brian, you kind of talked on what I was gonna ask. Hey.
I'm sure your perspective will be way better than mine, so go for it.
Well, first of all, Uncle, one of the things that I really enjoyed about what you shared, about your expression, hey, was like how you connected all these different thoughts, all these different theologies, and all these different like people to what to like how your calling goes. And I really, really enjoyed how you put Thunderheart in there. That's one of my most favorite movies. So it's definitely not like a little kid movie, but it was something I grew up on. So I was really happy to see that. Um, so what I was going to ask you from a student perspective, as someone who would possibly be sitting at Nate's listening to what you had to share so far, um, was like, how were you able to discern your vision or calling on your life from just a mere dream? Like, was it like how could you tell the difference between what Creator had told you and where he wanted you to kind of go versus just a dream that you may have had but never really thought you could pursue it? Felt like it was just a dream or something like that. So like how were you able to discern that?
The next week we'll bring in some of that as well. Is that what is a voice? Hearing a voice is a dream or vision. But when I heard a voice, speak to me for several words, and then when he asked the question, that's when I answered. But that was no doubt that I heard a voice, but nobody around me did. It's like Paul's vision that he heard a voice and the people on the horses didn't hear the voice. So for me, it was so real. And then another vision that I had that I'll speak of is that it happened in dream and in vision. So my understanding of a dream is that they happen when you're asleep. And vision happens when you're awake. So when I had a dream, part of my dream that I had was the dream of the boy having a vision quest. That was a dream. And then it turned into a vision because I write about it here, we'll hear it next week, is that it turned into a vision that I woke up and what I seen was like, I can only explain to it as like a Star Wars first hologram. It's just like if this thing happened, it's not on the wall, it's like 5 feet away from me, and it's happening in front of me, and I'm watching the rest of my dream now has become a vision, and it's taking place, and I'm seeing where I am to go, what I'm going to do. Part of what I seen was a book opened like this. And I got a picture, something like it, but it's not exactly like it. But it's a book, and all the pages are flinging open. And as I started looking at the pages, I was leafing through them. So at the beginning there yeah, this is my birth, and this is where I went to school, and this has happened to me here, and this was a tragedy. All these things I understood there, and then when I got further, my calling, it's like this is going to be part of your life now, and this is going to be part of your life. And as soon as I started to see more, I shut the book because it was just too much for me to handle. So I shut the book, and I just wanted to be, I guess I just wanted to be surprised where my life is going to go. I just didn't want to know that it's going to go. But it was a book, it was like a book that had no end. It's like, it's not 25 pages, it's like 350,000 pages. And it's all going to happen to me over time. But the main point of my calling, it may be different than others, the main point of my calling to ministry is that it is going to be a lifelong. It's not going to go until I have children and then they go off and then I'm a, we're empty nesters. That's the end. No, it's not. It's like when I'm an empty nester, then I'm just going to keep on going. Just like I have this picture of my shirt up there. I'm going to be a chaplain at the Veterans Hospital now. So that's going to be another part of my life that's going to go on. I'm going to bring in contextual sweat lodges to the VA hospital. I'm going to bring in people that I know that can run a sweat lodge and do it in a way that Christ is going to be honored here. Whatever your God is, whatever you pray to, one of them that you pray to in here is allowed is going to be Jesus Christ. So that's what because I'm in this group of chaplains, so that's going to be, maybe take me on into my 70s, But I've been at this for 32 years now. And it's been another page, and another page. It's just always been happening. And some of those pages are my kids growing up. Some of those pages are my kids hurting. Some of those pages are ministry, wow, this happened. And some pages it's like, something, it didn't happen. And the frustrations, but it's always been continual. But that's why I shut the book. I didn't want to know the very end there. But it just keeps on going. And they come to people in different ways.
Well, Uncle, I just want to let you know that you inspire me too with your obedience to Creator and just taking those steps and continuing to going until you can't go no more. Hey, you really do inspire me, Uncle. I'm really glad that you took me in as one of your little ones. But yes, thank you though, Uncle. Thank you for sharing. And I look forward to the next part. Hey.
All right, last call. We'll go into our closing round dance, and then Penzaka will do our send-off blessing. And you can tell everybody once they recover from their hamburger comas that they can come next week.
You have a question?
And we can see them.
Dennis.
And then they can watch this video, and then they'll be all up to speed for next week.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Dennis. You can close out our question time.
I don't want to be too long. But I was kind of curious I've kind of like a question. I've had many dreams myself, and a lot of them have been directional. The school of ministry I did, they talked a lot about dreams and the prophetic and prophecy and that kind of stuff. And there are times and I think it's interesting, I've heard some other indigenous videos, they are very careful what they share, and you mentioned it again in your talk about not sharing everything to give everything away, the whole vision. But sometimes I have dreams and I'm like, okay, what do I share? What do I not share? And there's some times in my journey where God would tell me things and I just kind of kept them to my heart. And I even heard the example Joseph, he shared his dreams and it kind of got him to where he got sold by his brothers and he went down a path. because his brothers were jealous and stuff like that. And I know we have to be careful, and it's kind of like, okay, how careful do we be? How careful are we to be? How much are we to share? And I even had a dream recently, and I wanted to share it to my boss because it kind of was related to work, and it was at work. And I'm kind of like wrestling in my heart the other day, like, do I share it? Do I not share it? And the opportunity never arose. So I didn't share it with him. But also, at this point in my journey in life, um, I'm on a different journey right now, and it's kind of like everywhere I'm trying to get into or trying to do something, I feel like there's just resistance and closed doors. And the story of Paul comes to my mind, where he tried to enter two regions specifically, and it specifically says the Spirit of Jesus prevented him, and then it said the Holy Spirit prevented him. And then that night he had a vision, he saw a man in Macedonia come and help us. And then he knew that that direction was we're supposed to go into, and that's where the church, the Philippine church, the church of the Philippian was birthed. And we never have any records of that man that Paul came into contact with. But I have a big vision. I have a lot of burning in my heart for a specific type of ministry. And I'm having a hard time finding people that will understand it. But as you're talking and sharing, and my heart just burns even more. And I sometimes like can't find people that would understand what I have to say and the complexity of the understanding of what I want to see happen. And I don't know, just I share that because there are things I'd like to explore and keep going in, but it's been a lonely journey because there's not a whole lot of people that understand it or walk with you. But anyways, my question is, how or when do you know to share something or when not to share something?
Well, it has to be somebody that you trust, and will know that you have these visions now and then. And sometimes you just got to have somebody, like my daughter, she says, "Hey, something just happened to me and I have to tell somebody," It might not have been a vision, but it was just so exciting to her that she had to share it with somebody. So I know you want people to, like, say, affirm you, but if I would have told some of my vision to Huron Claus, like I did 40 years ago, almost 40, yeah, not quite, maybe that long. We've known each other that long, but if I would have told him that I wanted to go into contextual ministry and I started doing it, what happened between him and I is that we didn't speak again for 22 years. So that wasn't the right person to talk to, and it wasn't the time to do it. But what it did is it separated us from those contextuals and those that are going to do white Western traditional all the way. So this set me in a world of Richard Twist. This one set him in a world of status quo. Keep doing it the same way. So I can't tell you who to say it to, but the Holy Spirit you have to lean on that discernment for that. And when you do get a vision for something in ministry, here's mine. When I got my call to ministry, I'm going to share part of that voice that I heard. Because when I told you I heard him say who's going to take their places, the other part of that conversation when he was speaking to me, it says, "You're going to do this for the rest of your life. And you're not going to complete. You're only going to set the stage for new things to begin." So it's like when you're planting a field. I am only in ministry to clear out the rocks. just make it easier for the plants to grow. My home ministry has been hard all my life. So the field that I'm planting, I only spent these 30 years of just cleaning out the stuff that's in the way of doing this kind of ministry. It's you and the younger people, the next generation, that are going to take this for another 30 years. And if I live that long, I will see this kind of ministry all over the place. Because 30 years we've gotten to where we're doing this. We're sharing this kind of talk, where back in the beginning, I couldn't share it at all. So that's kind of like where I am. Don't think, I guess some ministries might sprout immediately from your vision, but some ministries might be like mine, and you might only be the first step in a long journey that someone else is going to pick up, and they're going to water. They're going to see the fruits. You're going to see all the toil that took to get there. So it might not be glamorous, but it's all going to be for the Lord.
And I think there's also something to be said for like how you share what you share too.
Yeah.
So there's discerning like if you should share with somebody, but then there's also, as Paul said, we need to know how to season our words so that they can be accepted. So knowing how to say and how to share is important. I mean, even though, like you mentioned, Joseph, and even though, God used everything that happened to get him into Egypt where God needed him to be, but the way he shared his vision with his brothers was not in a way that was going to endear them to have him as a leader. When he was just like, hey, God told me you guys are all going to bow before me. And they were like, oh yeah, well, we'll show you. So there's definitely something to be said for being tactful in how you share. Once you discern what to share and who to share it with, then there's the whole how component of it too. But yeah, great questions though.
Good questions. Thank you.
Those are.
Yeah, we've got a little bit more next week, and then I'll be doing the next talk from where am I going? Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yeah.
Are y'all good, Dennis? No follow-ups? Just want to make sure before. I don't want to cut you off.
No, I'm good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dennis.
All right. So yeah, we'll do a quick run through of the Going Around song, and then Pitaka will send us off with a send-off lesson. Yes, sir! Got our own
All right. Yes. Thank you, Brian. And thank you, Uncle, for sharing a little bit of your presentation with us. And we look forward to next week. Hey? It's always good to hear from our uncle. He always shares really good words, really good stories. And I really enjoyed tonight. And I look forward to next week. Hey? And yes, for those of you who weren't able to join us tonight, definitely check this one out. I'm probably going to post on the Good Medicine Way page and be like, come on over and watch this. We get a sneak preview. All right. Well, I'm going to do something a little bit different since it is Memorial Day. And since we are thinking about all those lives that were lost due to different battles and different struggles and different ways that our people and our other military people were taken. So I'm going to go ahead and try to sing Amazing Grace in Lakota. I kind of felt it on my heart tonight. So that'll be our send-off blessing. Hey. All right, so bear with me. I'm not the best singer. Hey. Onion te hawaun makshi chakto wani wawashtekin iye waya Wichoni wan blaka Woashte he chante mael Washa maya yinta Wowi chake kinu leha owa pekin wana otaki tehi wana egna ima chagan washtaking helmawani washte oma jula oto kahe Yachin yata ohinian yan wakan tangka wawitakin you have my wa nite Wakan tangka yata nule Wakan tangka yata Wakan tangka yata nule Wakan tangka amen. Aho, may it be so. Have a great week.
It's very good.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for that send-off.
All right. Yes,
All
I am
right.
definitely blessed by that send-off.
All
So-
right. Enjoy the rest of your 3-day weekend. What's up of it? Another 3 hours?
Yeah. 2
We're
hours.
gonna bid? Yeah. Okay, everyone, have a good night. Dennis, Evan, Hedagaka.
All right, we'll see you guys next
Everything
week.
here can stay up. We'll, I'll put it away tomorrow.
Okay,
We'll just help him with electronics.
okay. All right.